Georges Méliès was one of the greatest imaginative minds to pick up the camera. He was one of the first pioneers to take up narrative filmmaking and immediately lent his distinctive vision to the art form. He came from a background of theater and illusion, and his films came to hold a position in his shows as a new form of demonstrating tricks and magical illusions through the camera. One of his most striking contributions is his vision of editing as a magic trick. If you go through his filmography, you'll encounter a large number of films where the main mechanism is an edit making a physically impossible feat possible, or creating the ability to make more fantastical illusions and trick shows. However, he had more up his sleeve than just magic. Méliès had fascinations with space and the supernatural. Films like A Trip to the Moon showcased a fantastical vision of what lay beyond Earth. Similarly, his works like The Merry Frolics of Satan showed a fascination with powers beyond our world of a different sort. Many of his films had a cartoonishly violent sensibility to them, once again enabled by a visionary use of editing. And he also had the ability to make magic happen with the simplest setups. I've now gone through 140 of his films, and I want to present 10 of my favorites. Please like and subscribe. Number 10 is Bluebeard. A young woman becomes the 8th wife of the wealthy Bluebeard, whose first 7 wives have died under mysterious circumstances. We're starting with a work on the darker side for Méliès, but he did work naturally in the horror genre. He seems to relish in that darker quality, enjoying the morbidity, for example, of a cook becoming part of his own stew. Méliès also delivers what is, in my experience so far, the first real horror reveal in cinema, with the wife finding the previous dead wives. And later on you can see Méliès's penchant for double exposures and fantastical dream imagery for the nightmares after that reveal. And it's also worth mentioning, this is 1901, just 5 years into the journey of narrative cinema. It's amazing to me how quickly he grasped so many elements of how film would grow and work. Next is The Merry Frolics of Satan. The devil torments a pair of travelers before deciding to take them on a trip to hell. This is similar to Bluebeard in terms of being a darker story that Méliès seems to enjoy, but this one cranks up the energy and the fantasy even higher, and it's helped by the great hand-colored version that's widely available. Another staple in Méliès' work is enthusiastic choreography, movement that's acrobatic and bordering on dance. You'll frequently see imps and other demonic beings especially having this unnatural style of movement to separate themselves, and genuinely perhaps the greatest joy of this film is seeing it meet its conclusion. You would think that in 1906 they wouldn't be able to make movies about the devil roasting someone on a spit in hell, but here it is. Number 8, The Eclipse, Courtship of the Sun and Moon. Number 7, Misfortune Never Comes Alone. A soldier stands guard outside a garrison when suddenly a series of chaotic events occurs. This is a very simple story, very simple setup that Méliès works magic. It's just one set piece. No camera moves, all slapstick. Even when he wasn't focusing on genre work or a lavish environmental design, he still had a mind for comedy. It's all about the sequence of events, the physical performances, and the escalation, and I think it's just delightful. Number 6, The Inn Where No Man Rests. A traveler is shown to his room in an inn where strange things begin to happen. This is mostly a slapstick comedy piece, but with some deliciously horror-inspired trappings. It's also one location, and the environment is heavily involved. Most of it is kind of like a poltergeist sort of idea, with a little bit of a chase film tacked on to the end. I love the painting as a main bit of environmental design, and it's a way in which Méliès used editing as magic to be able to make something like that painting transform in a way that's sort of akin to a jump scare. And this is another film where the chaos is the main draw. Between that and the environment, I think you've got something special. Number 5 is Whimsical Illusions. This is the Méliès trick film. It is a magic show captured on film and facilitated by editing together physical impossibilities. There are a whole lot of these, but to me, this is the best in this purest form. There's going to be another one later on the list that's kind of similar, but this is like a pure trick film, and it's my favorite. It is just essentially a magic show routine, but the magic tricks are not possible without the revolutionary use of editing. It's full of energy, it's fun, it's quick, and it's varied, and I think it's just a blast to watch. Number 4 is The Witch. A penniless man cheats a witch and tries to evade her revenge while saving a princess. Méliès had a couple of fairy tales in his repertoire, and this is the first one we'll see in this video. The hand coloring, again, awesome asset to the movie. It brings the fantasy environment to life so well, and it highlights some great set design even further. It has that fairy tale feeling nailed down, and it's like an illustrated book, from the nature of the conflict and the encounters to the art direction of the backgrounds. It feels magical and childlike and special in a way that not many tales like this manage to pull off. The Fat and Lean Wrestling Match. This is just a fantastical, cartoonish wrestling match, in essence. This has the cartoon violence sensibility that I mentioned at the start. The editing enables the use of dummies and ragdolls and even a little bit of stop motion work to create these over-the-top situations that we would eventually become familiar with in things like Looney Tunes. And most importantly, everyone shows good sportsmanship, and I think that's great. I think it's fun to see the creativity to make this spectacle happen, even with limitations of early 1900s technology. Number 2 is An Extraordinary Dislocation. Another type of film Melies liked to make early on was of him doing what kind of feels like a tech demo. A one-man show of him just using rear projection or double exposure or perspective tricks to do something a little different. This, to me, is the ultimate example of that type of work. I just love the imagination and the pure joy and the creativity seeing this on display. I think it's the perfect amount of chaos without spending too much time on the concept. Again, total blast, a lot of fun. And number 1 is Kingdom of the Fairies. Much like The Witch, this is a fairy tale story. I just think this one's a little bit better. The same praises apply. The hand coloring is great. The fantasy setting is delightful. The production design is immaculate. The fairy tale is classic. It's got some of the best design work in his catalog with moments like the destroyed castle or the stormy ocean. And there's just something special about this particular vision of a fairy tale that has this simpler and theatrical and illustrated delivery.